So we come to the first Sunday of the new church year. First Sunday of Advent, the new year that brings we don't know what. There's something nice about newness just in and of itself. There's a refreshment to the idea that you can start again. You can leave some things behind and you can try again to get it right. And of course, things are not going to be the same in the new year, though there'll be some similarities to the old year. We'll hear the gospel, but we won't hear it according to Luke. We'll hear it according to Matthew. And you'll hear the gospel, but you won't be the same person that you were listening to it last year or 10 years ago. You're different. And the world is a different place. The world is a different place this year, this moment, than it was a year ago when the gospel came into the world then or 10 years ago. There is this sense of always something new and fresh, and then there is the heartbeat, the drumbeat of the story of Jesus, which is told over and over again in its various nuanced ways. T.S. Eliot has this great poem, Little Gidding. A wonderful line in there: "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to come to the beginning where we began and recognize it for the first time." So today, we come again to the beginning, and we recognize it. It's the beginning of this story that we're about to hear. The whole story all over again. But this time, for this year, it will be told in the words and the mind of the writer Matthew, which means we have to say goodbye to Luke, which I'm really sorry about. I really like Luke. The story tells about Jesus and the sort of nuances of the way he tells it, where he's so broadly inclusive of all the people on the margins. The Jesus in Luke is determined to convey a sense that the kingdom which he brings sweeps up everybody, most particularly those who are at the margins, the lepers and the poor and the widows and the foreigners. In part, this is because probably the Gospel of Luke was written in a cosmopolitan city. We don't know what city. And it was addressed to a congregation which was at least somewhat Gentile. And so it had an appeal to a broader vision of the world. And we got used to that for the last year, particularly these last 6 months, where we've been walking along having him describe this kingdom to us. So now we turn to Matthew. And Matthew is writing to a congregation that is different. It's a congregation probably in Palestine that is in the midst of hashing out what it means to be a Jewish Christian community. It's a community that is made up entirely, probably, of Jews who have created this new community around the person of Christ. You remember that the temple was destroyed, and the temple was the focal point of the Jewish faith. And after that, almost miraculously, the Pharisees were able to take that faith and turn it in such a way that the centerpiece became the rabbi rather than the temple. And because they were able to do that, Judaism was able to continue. And just at that moment, the Christian community was forming itself, made up of the brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts of those very Jews. And they were in a struggle together, these communities, to try and lay claim to the inheritance of the people of Israel. And that's why when we read Matthew, you will find that repeatedly he refers to how this part of Jesus' ministry or that part is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. He conveys a picture of Jesus as being the new Moses. He wants to lay claim to the entirety of the heritage of the Israelites. So it's a little different. It's got a few different concerns that we'll run into. But on this first day, this first Sunday of the year, it's always a similar type of reading that we hear. It's this funny one about the second coming, about you have to be awake because you never know when Christ is going to come. And if you were a householder and knew your house was going to be broken into, then you'd stay home. Or if you were just awake enough to be able to greet Christ. And that's always the theme on the first Sunday of Advent, which is kind of odd. But it's done because we're about to begin a deeply historical passage of Scripture. We're about to root God and Jesus and the kingdom in the first century, in a specific time and place with John the Baptist next week, and then Mary, and then the birth of Jesus. Something that happened a long time ago. And the church does not want you to think that that's where we think God is a long time ago.